A billionaire discovers his daughter is helping a poor boy from school, and when he finds out why, he breaks down in tears. The bell rang, and the playground exploded with shouts and laughter. Chloe clutched her blue lunchbox and shuffled out of the line with the other kids. It was her favorite part of the day. 30 minutes of freedom before heading back to a classroom full of rules and silence. Recess at Westbrook Elementary was always the same. The same cliques, the same games, the same fights for space at the picnic tables. Chloe knew everyone there, or almost everyone. She opened her lunchbox and saw the sandwich the housekeeper had prepared. Whole wheat bread, cheese, ham, lettuce. Nothing special. But it was there, neatly wrapped with care. Chloe took a bite and looked around. That's when she saw him, a boy sitting alone near the wall, far from everyone else. He had messy, dark hair and clothes that seemed a bit too big for him. He was sitting with his knees pulled up to his chest, staring at the ground. And he had nothing in his hands. No lunchbox, no snack, nothing. Chloe frowned. She had seen that boy before, but had never paid much attention. He was always quiet, always alone. Even the teachers didn't seem to notice him. She looked at her own sandwich. Then she looked back at the boy. Something tightened in her chest. Chloe stood up. A few girls from her class called her name, but she didn't answer. Her steps led her to the wall, to that forgotten corner of the playground where no one ever went. The boy looked up when he noticed someone was near. His eyes were brown, large, and carried a sadness that didn't belong on a 7-year-old's face. Chloe stopped in front of him. "Hi," she said. The boy didn't answer. He just looked at her with a confused expression, as if he couldn't understand why anyone would be talking to him. "Can I sit here?" Chloe pointed to the ground beside him. He hesitated, then shrugged. It was a silent yes. Chloe sat down, crossing her legs and placing the lunchbox on her lap. The boy went back to staring at the ground. She noticed he was wringing his hands, nervous. "Are you new here?" Chloe asked, trying to start a conversation. "No," he replied quietly. "I've been here since last year." "Oh." Chloe was surprised. How had she never noticed him before? "I'm Chloe." "Noah," he murmured. An awkward silence hung between them. Chloe opened her lunchbox again and glanced at her half-eaten sandwich. Noah quickly looked away, but not before Chloe saw him staring at the food. His stomach rumbled. It was quiet, but she heard it. Noah turned red and hugged his knees tighter, as if he wanted to disappear. Chloe didn't think twice. She took her sandwich and broke it in half. She held one piece and offered the other to Noah. "Here," she said. Noah's eyes widened. "What?" "Take it. I'm not going to eat it all anyway." "You don't have to. I know I don't have to. But I want to share." Noah looked at the piece of sandwich in Chloe's hand. You could see the struggle inside him, pride versus hunger. Hunger won. He took the sandwich slowly, as if afraid Chloe might change her mind. "Thanks," he whispered. "You're welcome." They ate in silence for a while. Chloe chewed slowly, but Noah devoured his half in 3 bites. She pretended not to notice. "Why are you always alone?" Chloe asked after a moment. Noah shrugged. "Nobody wants to hang out with me. Why not?" He didn't answer right away. He fidgeted with the laces of his worn-out sneakers and took a deep breath. When he finally spoke, his voice was so low Chloe had to lean in to hear. "My mom lost her job." Chloe blinked. She didn't really understand what that meant, how losing a job affected having friends or not having a lunch. But she understood the sadness in Noah's voice, and that was enough. "I'm sorry," she said, not knowing what else to say. Noah shook his head. She didn't do anything wrong, but they said she did. Now no one wants to hire her. Tears started to well up in his eyes, but he held them back. Chloe felt her heart ache again. "You can eat with me," she said suddenly. "Every day, if you want." Noah turned his head toward her, surprised. "Really, really? I have a sandwich every day. We can share." For the first time, something changed in Noah's face. It wasn't quite a smile. It was too small for that. But it was something, a flicker of hope, a sense of relief. "My thanks, Chloe," he said, and this time his voice was a little stronger. Chloe smiled back. It was a shy smile, but a genuine one. "We're friends now, right?" Noah blinked, as if no one had ever used that word with him before. "We are." "Yeah. Friends share things." The bell rang again, signaling the end of recess. The kids started running back inside the school, yelling and pushing. Chloe stood up and packed her empty lunchbox. "Come on," she said, holding out her hand to Noah. He looked at her hand, hesitant. Then, slowly, he took it. Chloe pulled him up, and they walked back to class together. No one noticed, no teacher, no other kid. But for Chloe and Noah, something had changed. For the first time in a long time, Noah wasn't alone. And Chloe discovered that helping someone made her chest feel warm inside. A good feeling she couldn't explain, but wanted to feel again. When they reached the classroom door, Noah looked at her one more time. "See you tomorrow?" he asked, almost afraid of the answer. "Now see you tomorrow," Chloe confirmed. And for the first time in weeks, Noah gave a real smile. That day, during the noisy recess at Westbrook Elementary, in a forgotten corner near the wall, a friendship was born that would change everything. Chloe didn't know it yet, but that simple gesture, sharing a sandwich with a lonely boy, would be the first step in a chain of events that would reveal hidden truths, right injustices, and show that sometimes the biggest changes start with the smallest acts of kindness. But in that moment, all that mattered was that two children's hearts had connected. And that was more than enough. The next morning, Chloe woke up before her alarm went off. She ran down the stairs, still in her pajamas, and entered the kitchen where the housekeeper, Martha, was making breakfast. "Good morning, dear," Martha said, turning around with a spatula in her hand. "What's with all the energy so early?" "Martha, I need a favor." Chloe climbed onto the stool by the counter. "Can you make 2 sandwiches today for my lunch?" Martha frowned. "2? Are you that hungry these days?" "It's just, I want to bring extra food." Chloe swung her legs nervously. She didn't want to lie, but she also wasn't sure if she should tell her about Noah. "You're growing, aren't you?" Martha smiled and ruffled Chloe's blonde hair. "All right, I'll make 2 extra-large sandwiches for you." "Thanks." Chloe hopped off the stool and ran back to her room. When she got to school, she could hardly wait for recess. The morning classes seemed to drag on. The teacher talked about math, but all Chloe could think about was Noah sitting alone by the wall. Would he be there again? Had he been hungry since yesterday? The bell finally rang. Chloe grabbed her now heavier lunchbox and quickly left the classroom. Her eyes scanned the playground until she found that corner near the wall. There he was. Noah was sitting in the same spot, in the same position, with his knees against his chest. But this time, when he saw Chloe approaching, he lifted his head and something shone in his eyes. Hope. "Hi," Chloe said, sitting next to him. "Hi," Noah replied, and you could see a small smile on his lips. "I brought something." Chloe opened her lunchbox and took out 2 wrapped sandwiches. "This one's for you." Noah's eyes widened. "You brought a sandwich just for me?" "Yep. No need to share today. You eat one, and I'll eat the other." For a moment, Noah was quiet. His eyes were shining in a strange way, like he was about to cry. But he took a deep breath and took the sandwich. "Thank you, Chloe," he said, and his voice was filled with something Chloe couldn't name. Gratitude, maybe, or relief. They ate together, talking about little things. Noah mentioned he liked to draw. Chloe said she loved dogs, but her dad never let her have one because he traveled so much. For the first time, Noah laughed. It was a quiet laugh, but it was real. And so the routine began. Every day, Chloe brought 2 lunches. Every day, she and Noah sat together in the same corner. Every day, their friendship grew a little more. On Tuesday, Noah showed Chloe a drawing he had made. It was a bird in flight. "It's beautiful," Chloe said, and Noah smiled with pride. On Wednesday, Chloe taught Noah how to play rock, paper, scissors. They laughed so hard a teacher glanced over at them but said nothing. On Thursday, Noah told her about his mom. "She's really nice," he said quietly. "She always made the best mac and cheese, but now we just eat rice and beans when we have it." Chloe didn't know what to say. She had never thought about things like that. about not having enough food, about going hungry. For her, food had always just been there on the table, without her ever needing to worry. "Your mum sounds amazing," Chloe finally said. "She is," Noah agreed. "She's the best." On Friday, other boys from their class started to notice. One of them, Tyler, pointed at Noah and yelled, "Look, Noah finally has a friend." Chloe glared at Tyler. "So what?" Tyler laughed and walked away, but Chloe felt Noah shrink beside her. "Don't listen to him," Chloe said. "He's a jerk." "You don't care?" Noah asked quietly. "About being my friend, even though everyone knows I'm different." Chloe turned to him, serious. "You're not different. And even if you were, I wouldn't care. We're real friends, remember?" Noah nodded, and a small smile appeared on his face. At home, Martha started to notice something strange. "Chloe," she said the second week, while packing the girls' lunch, "you've been eating a lot more lately." Chloe was drinking juice at the kitchen table. "Have I?" "Yes, you have. 2 sandwiches every day, plus fruit, plus cookies. Are you having a growth spurt or something?" "I guess so," Chloe answered quickly, avoiding Martha's eyes. Martha crossed her arms and tilted her head. "Are you sure you're eating all of this?" "I get hungry at school," Chloe insisted. Martha didn't seem convinced, but didn't press further. She went back to making the sandwiches, but she had that thoughtful expression adults get when they know something is up. That night, Austin Whitmore came home late as usual. He was a tall man in a flawless suit, with graying hair at his temples and a posture that radiated power. But when he walked into his house, his shoulders relaxed a bit. "Mr. Whitmore," Martha greeted him at the entrance. "Dinner is ready." "Thank you, Martha. Has Chloe eaten already?" "Yes, sir." "She had dinner and is in her room doing homework." Austin nodded and started up the stairs, but Martha called him, "Mr. Whitmore?" He stopped and looked back. "Yes?" Martha hesitated. "It's just, Chloe has been eating a lot more lately, asking for bigger lunches, more food in her lunchbox. I thought it was strange." Austin shrugged. "She's growing, isn't she?" "It's normal." "Yes, but if she's hungry, let her eat, Martha. No need to worry." "I understand, sir." Martha lowered her head. Austin went up the stairs, already thinking about the emails he needed to answer. The conversation about Chloe's lunch was already out of his mind. In her room, Chloe was lying on her bed, staring at the ceiling. She was thinking about Noah, about how he had smiled today when she brought extra cookies. She thought about how his life seemed so hard, so different from hers. She didn't fully understand what losing your job or having no money meant, but she understood that Noah was going through something bad, and she understood that she could help. It was as simple as that. At school, their friendship continued to grow. Now Noah would wait for Chloe near her classroom before recess. They would walk to the wall together, talking and laughing. "You know what I want to be when I grow up?" Noah asked one day. "What?" "An artist. I want to draw comic books." "Really? That's so cool." "What about you?" Chloe thought. "I don't know yet. Maybe a veterinarian, or someone who helps people." "You already help people," Noah said, looking at her. "You help me every day." Chloe felt her face get warm. "It's no big deal." "It is. You have no idea how much." They were silent for a moment, eating their sandwiches. Around them, the playground remained loud and chaotic. But there, in their little corner, they had peace and friendship. Chloe didn't know it, but those extra lunches were doing more than just feeding Noah. They were showing him that there was still kindness in the world, that he wasn't alone, that someone cared. And for Chloe, sharing those moments with Noah was teaching her things no class ever could, about empathy, about justice, about seeing the people the world prefers to ignore. The seed that had been planted on the first day continued to grow. Soon, this small friendship would make waves much bigger than anyone could imagine. But for now, it was just 2 kids, 2 sandwiches, and a true connection in the midst of schoolyard chaos. And that was all that mattered. Austin Whitmore was in his home office, reviewing financial reports, when he heard light footsteps in the hallway. He glanced at the clock, 9:30 at night. Chloe should be asleep. The door opened slowly, and a little blonde head peeked through the gap. "Dad?" Austin took off his reading glasses. Chloe, shouldn't you be in bed? I know, but can I talk to you? Just for a minute? There was something in her voice. It wasn't fear, it wasn't urgency. It was something else, something serious for a 7-year-old. Of course. Come in. Chloe entered, dragging her little feet on the floor. She was wearing her bunny pajamas, and her hair was in a slightly crooked ponytail. She had probably done it herself. Austin pushed his chair back and patted his lap. Chloe ran over and climbed up, snuggling against her father's chest. He hugged his daughter, feeling her small, comforting weight in his arms. What's wrong, princess? Can't sleep. I can, but I need to tell you something. I'm listening. Chloe fidgeted with her fingers, nervous. Austin waited. He had learned that pressuring his daughter didn't work. She spoke in her own time. Dad, Chloe began, looking at her own hands, I'm helping a boy at school. Helping? How so? There's a boy named Noah. He never has a lunch. He just sits alone at recess every day, staring at the floor. She paused, taking a deep breath. He never eats anything. Austin felt something tighten in his chest. And you've been sharing your lunch with him? Chloe nodded. At first, I shared my sandwich, but then I started asking Martha to make 2. One for me and one for him. She looked up at her father, worried. Are you mad? Mad? Austin blinked, surprised. Why would I be mad? Because I asked for more food without telling you, and because... I don't know. Sometimes grown-ups get mad about things I don't understand. Austin felt his heart ache again. He hugged his daughter tighter. No, Chloe. I'm not mad, not at all. Really. In fact, he hesitated, feeling emotion rise in his throat. I'm very proud of you. Chloe relaxed against his chest. He's really nice, Dad. We talk about everything. He draws really well, but he always seems sad. Why doesn't he have a lunch, Chloe? Do you know? It was then that Chloe spoke the words that would change everything. His mom lost her job. Austin froze. For some reason, those words hit him like a punch, maybe because they were said with such innocence, such simplicity, as if it were just a fact, not a tragedy. Lost her job, he repeated quietly. Yeah. Noah said they accused her of something she didn't do. Now she can't find work anywhere. Chloe looked at her father with those clear blue eyes, full of childish concern. Is that fair, Dad? To accuse someone of something they didn't do? Austin felt a lump in his throat. How could he explain the world's injustices to a 7-year-old? How could he say that, yes, unfortunately, this happened every day? No, Princess. It's not fair. I didn't think so. Chloe rested her head on his shoulder. That's why I bring Noah lunch. He needs to eat, right? Everyone needs to eat. Austin closed his eyes for a moment. His 7-year-old daughter had more compassion in her little finger than many adults he knew. She saw a hungry child and simply acted. No judgment, no complicated questions, just kindness. You're doing the right thing, Chloe, he said, his voice a little hoarse. You're being a true friend. He said, I'm his only friend. That broke Austin's heart. A child with no friends, hungry, carrying the weight of an injustice he didn't even fully understand. So, Dad, Chloe lifted her head. Can you help his mom? You have a big company. Maybe she could work there. Austin took a deep breath. Part of him wanted to say yes immediately, but the other part, the calculating, business part, hesitated. He didn't know this woman. He didn't know the full story. He couldn't just offer a job without investigating. But as he looked into his daughter's hopeful eyes, that calculating voice grew quieter. I want to meet this friend of yours, Austin said finally. Chloe's eyes lit up. Really? Really? How about I pick you up from school tomorrow? You can introduce me to Noah. For real, you'll come, but you're always busy. The sentence hurt more than Austin wanted to admit. It was true. He was always busy, always had meetings, calls, commitments. Martha was the one who picked Chloe up from school almost every day. But tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow, I'll be there, he promised. You can count on me. Chloe threw her arms around his neck. Thank you, Dad. Noah's going to be so happy. Austin hugged his daughter, his heart filled with a mix of pride and sadness. Pride in her kindness, sadness for the reality that this kindness revealed. How many children went hungry every day? How many families suffered from unjust accusations? How many stories like Noah's existed, invisible to those who didn't want to see? He had built an empire but had closed his eyes to the human cost, to the people who fell through the cracks of the system, to the lives that were destroyed by mistakes or, even worse, by deliberate injustices. "Dad," Chloe's voice brought him back. "Are you okay?" Austin cleared his throat and smiled, pushing away the heavy thoughts. "I'm fine, Princess. I was just thinking about how special you are. I'm just being his friend. And that's exactly what makes it special." He kissed the top of her head. "Now, come on, you need to sleep." "Can I sleep here with you? Just for tonight?" Austin glanced at the pile of reports on his desk. He had work to do all night. But as he looked at his daughter, he decided that work could wait. "You can." He stood up with Chloe in his arms and walked to her room. He tucked her into bed and pulled the covers up to her chin. Chloe was already closing her eyes, exhausted. "Dad," she murmured, already half asleep. "Yes. Do you think one day everyone will have enough food?" Austin felt a tightness in his chest. "I hope so, Princess. I hope so too." In minutes, she was asleep, breathing softly, a peaceful expression on her face. Austin stood there for a long moment, watching his daughter, 7 years old, and she already understood things many adults ignored. She was already making a difference in the world, however small. He left the room silently and went back to his office, but he didn't touch the reports. Instead, he sat in his chair, thinking. Tomorrow, he would meet Noah, and maybe, just maybe, he would find a way to do more than just be proud of his daughter. Maybe it was time to act. Austin left the office early that afternoon. His secretary was surprised. "Mr. Whitmore, but the meeting with the investors—" "Reschedule it," he said, grabbing his coat. "I have an important appointment." And he did. He had promised Chloe. The car pulled up in front of Westbrook Elementary at 3:15. Austin got out and stood by the gate, watching the stream of children pouring out. Parents and nannies waited, chatting among themselves. He felt a bit out of place. Usually it was Martha who did this. Then he saw her. Chloe came running out the door, her backpack bouncing on her back. When she saw her father, her face lit up in a way that made Austin's heart ache. "Dad!" "You came." "I promised, didn't I?" Chloe threw her arms around his waist. "Wait here, I'll go get Noah." She ran back into the school before Austin could reply. He stood there, hands in his pockets, waiting. A few minutes later, Chloe returned, and this time she wasn't alone. Beside her was a small, thin boy, wearing clothes that looked a size too big. Messy dark hair, worn-out sneakers, a backpack torn at one corner. But what caught Austin's attention most were the boy's eyes. Large, brown eyes that held a seriousness that didn't belong to a child. "Dad, this is Noah," Chloe said, all excited. Noah stopped a few feet away, looking at Austin with a mix of shyness and nervousness. Austin noticed the boy was gripping his backpack straps tightly. Austin crouched down to be at their level. "Hi, Noah. It's a pleasure to meet you. Chloe talks a lot about you." "Hi, sir," Noah replied quietly, barely able to meet his eyes. "You don't have to call me sir, you can call me Austin." Noah nodded but was still tense. "Chloe told me you two are friends," Austin continued, trying to make the boy more comfortable. "She said you're a very good artist." Noah's eyes lit up a little. "I like to draw." "Oh yeah? What kind of things do you draw?" "Animals, heroes, stuff like that." "He's really good, Dad," Chloe interrupted. "You should see his drawings." Austin smiled. But beneath the smile, he was observing the oversized clothes, the worn-out shoes, the boy's thinness. Everything confirmed what Chloe had told him. "Noah," Austin said gently, "Chloe told me you're going through a tough time." The boy looked down. "Yeah." "She said your mom lost her job." Noah bit his lip. For a moment, Austin thought he wouldn't answer. But then the boy spoke, his voice even quieter than before. "My mom lost her job. They accused her of stealing." He looked up, and tears were forming in his eyes. But she never did it. She would never steal anything. She always taught me that stealing is wrong. Austin felt something heavy settle in his chest. I believe you, Noah. No one does. Everyone thinks she did it, but I know she didn't. I know my mom. The boy's voice was trembling now. Chloe took his hand, offering silent support. Austin took a deep breath. He needed to know. Noah, where did your mom work? At a grocery store. Which one? Noah wiped his nose on his sleeve. Red Market. The world stopped. Austin felt the blood freeze in his veins. He felt the air leave his lungs. He felt everything around him blur for a second. Red Market, his company, his chain of grocery stores, the empire he had built from scratch. Red Market, he repeated, and his own voice sounded strange, distant. Yeah, she worked as a cashier there. She really liked working there. She always came home telling stories about the customers. Noah didn't notice the change in Austin. He continued, innocently. But one day she came home crying. They said she stole money, but she didn't. I know she didn't. Austin slowly stood up. He staggered a bit, took a few steps back. Dad? Chloe looked at him, confused. Are you okay? He couldn't answer. His mind was spinning, processing, connecting the pieces. Red Market was his. This woman had been accused of theft in one of his stores, had been fired, had lost everything, and he knew nothing about it. Mr. Austin, Noah called, worried. Austin turned his back to the children. He didn't want them to see, but he couldn't hold it back. A tear rolled down his face. Then another, and another. He covered his face with his hands, trying to compose himself, but the image wouldn't leave his mind. An innocent woman, destroyed by a false accusation, a boy going hungry, a family torn apart, in his company, under his responsibility. Dad? Chloe's voice was closer now, scared. Why are you crying? Austin took a deep breath, wiped his face, and then turned around. His eyes were red, but he tried to smile. Sorry, I just got emotional. Why? How could he explain? How could he tell a 7-year-old that her father, the man who was supposed to take care of everything, had failed so completely? Because Noah's story touched me, he said, which wasn't a lie. And because I'm proud of you for helping him. Chloe seemed to accept the explanation. Noah, however, was looking at Austin with a strange expression, as if trying to understand why a strange adult would cry over his story. Noah, Austin said, kneeling again. This time, he was closer. He placed a hand on the boy's thin shoulder. What's your mother's name? Angela. Angela Morrison. Austin closed his eyes for a second. Angela Morrison. He would look up that name. He would investigate every detail. He would find out what had happened. Thank you for telling me this, Noah, he said. You're a very brave boy. I don't feel brave, Noah admitted. I just want my mum to be happy again. Austin felt the tears threaten to return, but he held them back. I understand. He stood up and looked at Chloe. Princess, how about we give Noah a ride home? Chloe smiled. Can we, Dad? Of course. Where do you live, Noah? The boy gave the address, a neighborhood Austin only knew from passing through. It wasn't the worst in the city, but it was far from good. The three of them walked to the car. Austin opened the back door, and the children got in, chatting excitedly. But as he drove, Austin barely heard their conversation. His mind was elsewhere. Angela Morrison, accused of theft, fired. No chance of getting another job with that mark on her record. And it all happened in one of his stores. Under his name, his brand, his responsibility. How many other Angelas were there? How many other families had been destroyed while he was at the top, blind to what was happening below? She was one of my employees, he thought, and the guilt was like a crushing weight on his chest. An innocent woman, a starving boy. And he, the owner of it all, had done nothing. Worse, he hadn't even known. But now he knew, and Austin Whitmore was not the kind of man who ignored things once he knew. He looked in the rearview mirror and saw Noah laughing at something Chloe had said. A genuine, rare, precious smile. I'm going to fix this, Austin promised silently. I don't know how, but I will. The car moved forward, carrying two children who didn't know that this moment This casual meeting in front of a school was about to change everything, for Noah, for Angela, and for Austin. Austin got to the office at 5 in the morning. He hadn't slept. He couldn't. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Noah's face. He heard his voice saying, "She never did it." He saw the oversized clothes, the worn-out shoes, the eyes filled with an adult sadness. He turned on the computer and waited, drumming his fingers on the desk. Angela Morrison. As soon as the system booted up, Austin accessed the Red Market Human Resources database. He typed the name with slightly trembling fingers. Her profile appeared on the screen. Austin leaned forward, reading every line. Angela Morrison was 32 years old and had worked as a cashier at the downtown branch for 4 years and 7 months, almost 5 years. She wasn't a new employee. Austin clicked on the Performance Reviews tab. The first review said she was excellent, a punctual and polite employee with customers who had never had any issues with her register. The second repeated the praise, stating that Angela continued to be one of the best cashiers with 0 complaints. The third mentioned a promotion to head cashier due to her excellent service. Austin felt his stomach tighten. She wasn't just good, she was exemplary. He continued scrolling down the page. More praise, more positive reviews, Employee of the Month twice, a formal commendation from a customer who had written to thank her for her service. And then, suddenly, everything changed. The status showed a single, cold line, terminated for just cause. Reason: misappropriation of funds. Austin stopped breathing for a second. He clicked on the termination report. The document opened. It was short, cold, bureaucratic. It stated that employee Angela Morrison was caught with a cash shortage of $200 in her register. Upon review, the shortage was confirmed. The employee denied the claim but offered no plausible explanation. Immediate termination was applied in accordance with internal regulations. Signed by Gerald Thompson, manager of the downtown branch. Austin read it again and again. $200, a life destroyed over $200, but something was wrong. Very wrong. He went back to Angela's profile. 4 years of impeccable work, no prior issues, no complaints, no shortages, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, she steals $200. It didn't make sense. Austin opened another tab and searched for the standard protocol for cash shortage cases. He found the document, a manual he himself had approved years ago, but had never read carefully. The rules were clear. In cases of suspected misappropriation, the procedure required isolating the employee and preserving the scene, reviewing security footage, calling witnesses, conducting a full audit of the register, allowing the employee to formally defend themselves, and forwarding a report to the legal department. Only after legal approval could termination proceed. Austin went back to Angela's report. No mention of footage, no mention of witnesses, no mention of an audit beyond a vague confirmation, no mention of a formal defense. Just, shortage confirmed, employee denies, termination applied. And the report had been written and signed by the manager on the same day, everything resolved in a matter of hours. Austin felt anger begin to boil. He searched for more files related to Angela Morrison. He found an email from her to HR, sent 2 days after her termination. She wrote politely, contesting the termination and stating she had not committed the act she was accused of. She requested a review of the case and access to the security cameras. She mentioned her 4 years of service without any incidents and asked for reconsideration. The HR response came 3 days later, stating that the termination had been processed according to regulations and that the case was closed. There was no possibility of review. Austin clenched his fists. Case closed. Just like that. A woman with years of exemplary service, asking only that they look at the cameras, and the response was case closed. He clicked on more files, trying to understand how this had happened. He discovered a clause in the company policies that allowed for immediate termination when a manager marked a case as an indisputable in-the-act offense. The justification was to expedite obvious cases and avoid overloading the legal department. Austin vaguely remembered approving that change. It had been during a procedure review about 2 years ago. He had signed off on it without reading it properly, trusting it would be used responsibly. But looking at Angela's case, he saw that this policy had been an open door for injustice. A manager could mark any case as an indisputable offense and bypass all safety procedures. No review, no oversight, just his word against the employees, and Angela had been a victim of it. Austin looked up the profile of Gerald Thompson, the manager who signed the termination. The man had been with the company for 8 years. He started as a supervisor and was promoted to manager 3 years ago. His reviews were good, nothing exceptional. But now Austin looked at that profile with suspicion. Why was the termination so quick? Why were no procedures followed? Why didn't Angela have a chance to defend herself? He went back to her report, reading every word more carefully. Something about that document bothered him. The language was too generic. Shortage confirmed, without specifying how. Review conducted, without saying who participated. Employee denied, without giving details of her version. It was a report made to look legitimate, but that said nothing real. Austin looked out the window. The sun was beginning to rise, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The city was slowly waking up. People were going to work, trusting they would be treated fairly. But Angela Morrison had trusted in that, and look what happened. He remembered Noah. The thin boy saying she never did it, with such certainty, such faith in his mother. The boy defending Angela even when the whole world had turned its back on her. How many people have suffered because of my omission? Austin whispered to the empty room. He had built an empire. He had been proud of Red Market, of the opportunities it created, the jobs it provided. But while he celebrated growth from the top, at least one innocent person had been crushed at the bottom, by a system he created, by a policy he approved without thinking. Angela Morrison wasn't just a name in a file. She was a mother. She was the woman raising Noah alone, who worked hard for 4 years without a single complaint. And in a matter of hours, everything had been taken from her. Over $200 she probably hadn't even stolen. Austin saved all the files he had found. He would need them when he got to the office for real, when he could summon the legal department and start a proper investigation. But now, alone in the early morning, he could only think of one thing. He had failed. As an owner, as an employer, as a human being, he had created a system that allowed for injustice, and then had distanced himself enough not to see when it happened. He looked at Angela's photo on the screen. The gentle smile, the kind eyes, the same kindness he saw in Noah. "I'm going to fix this," Austin promised in a low voice. "No matter what it takes." The room fell silent, just the low hum of the computer and Austin's heavy breathing. Outside, the city continued to wake up. Life went on. But for Austin Whitmore, something fundamental had changed. He had seen the real cost of his negligence. He had seen a life destroyed because of a flawed system he created. And now that he knew, he could no longer pretend not to see. When the sun had fully risen, Austin was still there, planning his next steps. He would investigate. He would find the truth. He would bring justice, because a 7-year-old child believed in his mother, and Austin had decided to believe too. The next day, Austin left the office early again. This time, it wasn't just for Chloe. It was for something he needed to do, something he couldn't quite explain even to himself. He needed to see it with his own eyes. He needed to understand. When he arrived at the school, Chloe and Noah were waiting together by the gate. They were chatting excitedly, and Austin noticed how different Noah's face looked now, less tense. Less sad. "Dad?" Chloe waved. "Hi, Princess." Austin approached and looked at Noah. "Hi, Noah. How are you?" "Good, Mr. Austin. How about we give you a ride home today?" Noah's eyes widened. "Really? Of course. Come on." The three of them walked to the car. Austin opened the back door, and the kids got in, laughing about something only they understood. He started the engine and looked in the rearview mirror. "Noah, what's your address again?" Noah gave the address, a little hesitantly. Austin put it in the GPS and started driving. The route crossed the city. Slowly, the streets began to change. The houses got smaller, closer together. The parked cars were older, The sidewalks were cracked. Austin knew this part of the city only from passing through. He had never really paid attention. Now he was paying attention. "It's there." Noah pointed to a low, red brick building. It wasn't ugly, but it was weathered by time. The paint was peeling in some places. The windows were small. Austin parked in front. "Thanks for the ride, mister." "Austin," Noah said, already grabbing his backpack. "You're welcome." Austin hesitated. "Noah, is your mom home right now?" "She is. She always is." The boy looked down. "She doesn't have a job anymore, so." "I see." Austin took a deep breath. "Do you think she'd mind if I came up, just to meet her?" "Chloe talks so much about you. I'd like to say hello to your mom." Noah blinked, surprised. "Really? You want to meet my mom?" "I do." The boy's face lit up. "I'm sure she'd like that. Come on." The three of them got out of the car. Noah ran up the stairs with Chloe right behind him. Austin followed more slowly, his heart beating faster than it should. The apartment was on the second floor. Noah opened the door with the key he wore around his neck. "Mom, I'm home, and I brought visitors." Austin followed the children inside and found himself in a small, simple living room, an old but clean sofa, a coffee table with a plastic flower arrangement, curtains that had once been white. Everything was modest but carefully arranged. A woman came out of the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel, and Austin recognized her immediately from the file photo, Angela Morrison. She was thinner in person than in the photo. She had deep, dark circles under her eyes. Her dark hair was tied back in a simple ponytail. She was wearing old jeans and a faded blouse. But there was something about her, a quiet dignity in the way she stood tall, the way she held her chin up. "Noah, who are—" She stopped when she saw Austin, clearly surprised. "Mom, this is Mr. Austin. He's Chloe's dad." "And this is Chloe," Noah continued, all excited. "The girl I told you about." Angela looked at Chloe, and her face softened. "Oh, Chloe." "Noah talks about you every day." Chloe smiled, a little shy. "Hi, Mrs. Morrison. Please call me Angela." She turned to Austin and extended her hand. "A pleasure to meet you, Mr. Austin Whitmore. The pleasure is mine." He shook her hand, feeling the guilt weigh on his chest. She didn't know who he was. She didn't know he was the owner of the company that had destroyed her life. "Sorry about the mess," Angela said, looking around the room. "If I had known we'd have visitors—" "Everything is perfect," Austin replied, and it was true. The home was humble, but it had the care of someone who mattered. "Can I offer you some coffee? Or water? Please don't trouble yourself." "It's no trouble." Angela was already heading to the kitchen. "Please, have a seat." Austin sat on the sofa. The children dropped their backpacks and went to Noah's room, already talking about some drawing. Angela returned with 2 cups of coffee. She handed one to Austin and sat in the armchair across from him. "So," she began, holding her own cup, "you're Chloe's father." "I am." "Chloe has been an angel to my son." Angela's voice was filled with restrained emotion. "Noah has been through some very tough times recently. He became alone. The other kids don't want to be around him. But Chloe—" She shook her head, her eyes shining. She didn't care. "She saw my son and decided to be his friend. She shared her food. She sat with him when no one else would." Austin felt his heart ache. "Chloe is a special girl. She is. She saved my son in ways you can't even imagine." "Noah is special too," Austin said. "I realized that as soon as I met him." Angela smiled, but it was a sad smile. "He's a good kid. Always has been. Even with everything that's happened, he's still good. He told me about what happened to you, about the job." Angela's smile vanished. She looked down at the cup in her hands. "Ah, he told you. I'm sorry for what you went through." Angela was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was firm, controlled. "I worked at Red Market for 4.5 years. I was promoted. I won awards. I was never late. I never had any problems." She looked up, meeting Austin's eyes. "And then one day, they said $200 was missing from my register. They said I stole it." "Did you?" Austin asked quietly, though he already knew the answer. No. The word came out firm, without hesitation. I've never stolen anything in my life. I raised my son to be honest. How could I teach him that if I wasn't honest myself? Did they investigate? Angela let out a bitter laugh. Investigate? No. They called me into the manager's office, said money was missing, and sent me home the same day. I asked to see the security cameras. I asked them to call witnesses. I asked for anything that would prove my innocence. She shook her head. But they said it wasn't necessary, that the case was closed. Austin clenched his fists, trying to control the anger he felt. Not at her, but at the system, at the manager, at himself. After that, Angela continued, no one would hire me. I tried to explain what happened, but as soon as they saw I was fired for cause, the doors closed. She looked out the window, at some distant point. I lost my savings paying rent. I lost my health insurance. I almost lost this apartment. And Noah. Noah? Her voice broke for the first time. He saw everything. He saw his mother crying. He saw the fridge go empty. He saw his friends pull away because their parents thought I was a thief. She quickly wiped her eyes. But he never doubted me. Not for a second. He always said, "Mom, I know you didn't do it." Austin had to look away. The guilt was too heavy. "Sorry," Angela said, clearing her throat. "So you didn't come here to listen to my problems?" "No," Austin replied softly, "but I'm glad you shared this with me." Angela looked at him, confused by the intensity in his voice, but before she could ask anything, the children came running back from the room. "Mr. Austin, come see the drawing I made." Noah pulled his hand. Austin stood up, looking at Angela one more time. "Thank you for the coffee." "You're welcome." She seemed intrigued, as if she felt there was something more to this meeting but didn't know what. Austin followed Noah to the small room, but his mind was elsewhere. He had seen it. He had heard it. He had felt the true weight of the injustice that had occurred. And now he had no doubt. Angela Morrison was innocent, and he was going to prove it. The next morning, Austin arrived at his office with a determination his secretary didn't recognize. "Cancel my meetings for today," he said, walking straight past the reception. "All of them, Mr. Whitmore. All of them." He entered his office and closed the door. He picked up the phone and dialed the extension for the Internal Audit Department. "Hello? Marcus, it's Austin Whitmore. I need you and your team in my office in 1 hour. We have an urgent investigation." "Yes, sir. May I ask what it's about?" "Irregularities in terminations. I'll explain when you get here." Austin hung up and sat down, looking at the files he had printed overnight. Angela Morrison's case was there, along with the protocols that should have been followed and weren't. An hour later, Marcus Chen and 2 auditors entered the office. Marcus was a meticulous man with glasses and graying hair, who took his job very seriously. "Mr. Whitmore, we're here." "Have a seat." Austin waited for everyone to settle. "I need you to conduct a full audit of a specific termination case. Angela Morrison, a cashier terminated 8 months ago for an alleged cash shortage." Marcus took out a notepad. "Any specific suspicions?" "Several. The investigation protocol was not followed. No footage was reviewed. No witnesses were heard. The employee was terminated on the same day without a chance to defend herself." Austin paused. "And she had 4 years of impeccable history." One of the auditors frowned. "That's not standard procedure." "Exactly. The manager used the indisputable in the act offense clause to bypass all security steps." Marcus jotted down notes quickly. "Which manager?" "Gerald Thompson from the downtown branch." Marcus stopped writing and looked up. "Thompson. You know him." "I know the name. He's had other termination cases for cash shortages." Austin leaned forward. "How many others?" "I don't know off the top of my head, but I remember seeing his name in reports before." "Then I want you to investigate all termination cases signed by him in the last 3 years. All of them. I want to know how many employees were fired, for what reasons, and if the protocol was followed." "Understood. Anything else?" "Yes. I want access to the security footage from the day of Angela Morrison's termination, and if it's no longer on the system, I want you to look in the backups. Turn everything upside down if you have to." Marcus nodded. We'll start immediately." The three of them left, and Austin was alone again. He looked out the window, seeing the city below. So many people working, trusting they would be treated fairly. But how many had been betrayed like Angela? 2 days passed. Austin could barely focus on anything else. He went to meetings, signed papers, answered emails, but his mind was always on the audit. On the 3rd day, Marcus returned to the office. He carried a thick folder under his arm and had a grim expression. "Mr. Whitmore, we've finished the preliminary investigation." "And?" Marcus placed the folder on the desk. "It's worse than we imagined." Austin felt his stomach drop. "Tell me everything." Marcus opened the folder and began to flip through the documents. In the last 3 years, Gerald Thompson has fired 11 employees for cash shortages. All marked as indisputable in the act offenses, all without proper investigation. 11, Austin repeated, feeling the anger rise. All the employees had clean records, some had been with the company for years, and all the shortages were for small amounts, between $150 and $300. "Small amounts," Austin muttered. "Amounts that don't attract the attention of an audit." Exactly. These are amounts that are easily lost in the daily accounting of a supermarket. No one would investigate deeply. Austin clenched his fists. And the footage. "We managed to recover some from the backups. And we found something interesting." Marcus took a flash drive from his pocket and inserted it into Austin's computer. "May I?" Austin signaled for him to continue. Marcus opened a video. The image showed the inside of the Red Market store, specifically the checkout area. The date in the corner of the screen was from 8 months ago, the day of Angela's termination. "That's Angela Morrison at Register 3, Das." Marcus pointed to a woman serving customers efficiently and with a gentle smile. Austin watched. She worked carefully, counting money, typing in amounts, chatting politely with the customers. "Now pay attention here." Marcus fast-forwarded the video. This is Gerald Thompson approaching. A man in a suit appeared on the screen, walking towards Angela's register. They talked briefly. She seemed confused. He pointed to something off camera. Angela looked where he pointed, distracted for a second. And in that second, while she was looking the other way, Gerald Thompson put his hand in the cash drawer. "Wait!" Austin stood up. He put his hand in the drawer. "Yes, watch again." Marcus rewinded the video and played it in slow motion. It was clear. Gerald distracted Angela, and while she looked the other way, he opened the cash drawer and quickly took something out. He put it in his pocket and walked away. Minutes later, in the video, Gerald returned with another employee. He asked Angela to check her register. She seemed confused but complied. The count didn't match. She became visibly nervous, recounting several times. Gerald shook his head, said something inaudible, and led Angela out of the camera's view. The video ended. Austin had to sit down. He felt nauseous. He stole the money from her register and then accused her. Yes, and we did the same with other cases. We managed to recover footage from 3 more terminations. The pattern repeats. Gerald always approaches the employee, creates a distraction, takes money from the register, and then accuses the person. Why didn't anyone notice this before? Because he had authorization to access the registers. He's the manager. No one questioned him when he opened a drawer. And since the cases were marked as indisputable offenses, no one reviewed the footage. Austin ran a hand over his face. He created a perfect scheme. Small amounts that don't draw attention, victims who have no way to defend themselves, a system that allows for termination without investigation. And he chose his victims well, Marcus added grimly. Employees who didn't have the resources to hire lawyers, people who needed the job too much to cause trouble. People like Angela Morrison. Exactly. Austin was silent for a long moment, processing everything. 11 people. 11 lives destroyed. 11 families ruined. Because a greedy man found a loophole in the system. A system that Austin had created. How much did he steal in total? Austin asked. It's hard to calculate exactly, but based on the reported shortage amounts, we estimate between $2,000 and $3,000. $2,000. Austin gave a bitter laugh. He destroyed 11 lives for $2,000. Apparently so. Austin stood up and walked to the window. Below, people went about their lives. They worked, they walked, they lived. How many of them blindly trusted their employers? How many thought the system was fair? My company became a place where innocent people were destroyed, he said quietly, more to himself than to Marcus. Sir, Austin turned. I created this, Marcus. I signed that policy without thinking. I gave too much power to managers without creating adequate oversight. I trusted the system without verifying if it actually worked. With all due respect, Mr. Whitmore, you couldn't have predicted that someone would abuse, but I should have predicted it. Austin slammed his hand on the window. It's my responsibility to predict. It's my company. These people worked for me, and I failed them. Marcus was quiet, not knowing what to say. Austin took a deep breath, trying to control himself. Anger wouldn't solve anything now. He needed to act. What do you recommend? He asked. Legally. We have enough evidence to fire Gerald Thompson for cause and press criminal charges. The footage proves he committed fraud and slander. He'll probably go to jail. And the employees he fired? We can try to contact them, offer reinstatement, financial compensation, clear their records. But after so much time, I don't know how many will want to come back. Austin thought of Angela, of the dignity with which she told her story, of how she held her head high even after everything. I'm going to speak personally with each of them, Austin said. I'm going to apologize. I'm going to offer whatever is fair, and I'm going to make sure this never happens again. Mr. Whitmore, now that I know, I can't ignore it. Austin looked Marcus in the eyes. I'm not going to sweep this under the rug. I'm not going to solve everything quietly and move on as if nothing happened. These people deserve to know the truth. They deserve justice. Marcus nodded slowly. I understand. Prepare a full report. I want names, dates, amounts, everything. And I want Gerald Thompson out of this company today. Now, yes, sir. And Marcus, thank you for the diligent work. Marcus bowed his head and left the office. Austin was alone again, but this time he didn't sit down. He stood, looking at the documents scattered on his desk. Evidence of a crime, evidence of a systemic failure, evidence of what happens when power is given without oversight. He thought of Noah, of the thin boy sharing a sandwich with Chloe, of the boy who never doubted his mother, and he thought of Angela, of the woman who lost everything but kept her dignity, of the woman who remained good even when the world was cruel to her. I'm going to fix this, Austin promised aloud. I'm going to do what I should have done from the beginning. He picked up the phone and started making calls to the legal department, to HR, to the directors. The wheel had started to turn, and Austin Whitmore wasn't going to stop until justice was served. Austin parked in front of the red brick building. His hands were shaking on the steering wheel. He had rehearsed what he was going to say the entire way, but now that he was here, the words felt inadequate. How do you apologize for destroying someone's life? He took a deep breath and got out of the car. He walked up the stairs to the second floor, each step feeling as heavy as lead. He stopped in front of the apartment door and, for a moment, just stood there. Then he knocked. Footsteps on the other side. The door opened. Angela Morrison stood there, with the same kind look as before. When she saw Austin, she smiled in surprise. Mr. Austin, what a surprise! Noah isn't here. He went to... I know. He's at school with Chloe. Austin hesitated. Actually, I came to talk to you. May I come in? Angela noticed something different in his tone, something serious. Of course. Come in. She led him to the small living room. Austin sat on the same sofa as before, but this time he didn't accept coffee. He couldn't drink anything with the lump he felt in his throat. Angela sat in the armchair, her hands in her lap, waiting. Austin looked at her, at the woman who had lost everything because of a flawed system, because of his negligence. Angela, he began, and his voice came out quieter than he intended. I need to tell you something. Something important. Is everything okay? No, it's not. He paused, choosing his words carefully. When I was here a few days ago, you told me your story. About what happened at your job, about the termination. Angela tensed. Yes, you said you worked at Red Market. I did. Austin closed his eyes for a second. Angela, my full name is Austin Whitmore. I'm the owner of Red Market. The silence that followed was deafening. Angela was completely still, processing the words. Her eyes slowly widened. You're the owner? Yes, you're my ex-boss. I am. Angela stood up abruptly, taking a few steps back. Her expression changed from surprise to something between confusion and hurt. Why are you here? Why did you come to my house without telling me who you were? Because I needed to understand. I needed to hear your story without you knowing who I was. Unfiltered. Without fear of reprisal. And now you came to tell me it was all my fault? That I deserved to lose everything? No. Austin stood up too. Angela, I came to tell you the opposite. I came to tell you that you were right. About everything. Angela stopped, confused. What? We investigated your case. We did a full audit. We reviewed the security footage. Austin took a step toward her. Angela, you were wronged. The manager, Gerald Thompson, was the culprit. Angela's legs gave out. She had to lean against the wall. What? He was stealing small amounts from employees' registers and then blaming them for the theft. We found footage that proves it. He did it to you and at least 10 other people. Angela brought a hand to her mouth, her eyes filled with tears. You're saying I was right, that I didn't do anything. You did nothing wrong. You were the victim of a criminal who abused the system. A system that I, as the owner, let become flawed enough to allow this to happen. The tears streamed down Angela's face. She slid down the wall until she was sitting on the floor, sobbing, years of pain, of shame, of injustice, all coming out at once. Austin knelt beside her. I'm sorry I didn't see this sooner. For creating a system where you had no chance to defend yourself, for letting your life be destroyed while I was too busy to notice. Angela cried, her hands covering her face. I knew. I always knew I hadn't done anything, but nobody believed me. Not my family, not my friends. They all thought I was a thief. Your son believed you. Angela lifted her face and her eyes red. What? Noah. He always believed in you. He told me, with such certainty, my mom never did it. She would never steal anything. Austin felt his own voice fail. He had more faith in you than the whole world. Angela sobbed harder. My son. My boy. My son always believed in me, she said between tears. Even when I lost everything, even when we had no food, even when he heard others speak ill of me, he always said, I know you didn't do it, Mom. I know. And he was right. Angela took a deep breath, trying to compose herself. And now? What happens now? Austin reached out his hand and helped her up. Now I want to offer you something that won't erase what you've been through, but I hope it's a start. What? I want to offer you the position of manager at Red Market. Angela blinked, not understanding. Manager? Yes, you know the company. You have experience. You have an exemplary record, and most importantly, you have integrity, something that was clearly lacking in the man who held that position. You want me to come back, after everything? I do, but I understand if you don't want to. I understand if you can't even look at that place again. Angela was quiet for a long moment. She looked out the window at some distant point. Austin waited, respecting her time. When she finally spoke, her voice was different, firmer, stronger. I accept. You accept? Angela turned to him, and there was something new in her eyes. It wasn't just sadness or relief. It was determination. I spent 8 months trying to prove to the world that I wasn't a thief. 8 months fighting to get interviews, to explain, to defend my name, and now the world will finally know the truth. She lifted her chin. My son always believed in me. Now the world will too. Austin felt proud of this woman. After everything she had been through, she still had dignity. She still had strength. When can you start? Tomorrow. The next morning, Austin arrived at the downtown branch of Red Market before it opened. The employees were getting ready for the day. organizing aisles and registers. When they saw the owner walk in, everyone stopped. A tense silence filled the store. "Good morning, everyone," Austin said, his voice echoing through the space. "I'd like to introduce someone." Angela walked through the door. She was wearing a simple but professional outfit, black pants and a white blouse. Her hair was tied back elegantly. She walked with her head held high. The employees recognized her immediately. Whispers began. "It's Angela, the one who got fired. What is she doing here?" Austin raised his hand, asking for silence. "I want everyone to listen carefully. Angela Morrison worked here for 4.5 years. She was fired on an accusation of theft. But after a full investigation, we discovered that she was innocent. The real culprit was Gerald Thompson, who was embezzling money and blaming innocent employees." The silence was now absolute. Everyone looked between Angela and Austin, processing the information. Angela was wronged by this company, by a flawed system that I, as the owner, allowed to exist. And now I'm here to correct that. Austin looked at Angela, who remained calm beside him. "Starting today, Angela Morrison is the new manager of this branch." Some people's eyes widened. Others were dumbfounded. An older employee, who used to work at the register next to Angela's, was the first to move. She walked up to Angela with tears in her eyes. "Angela, I'm so sorry. We should have believed you." Angela took her hand. "It's okay, Carol." "No, it's not. We turned our backs on you. But now you know the truth. That's what matters." Slowly, other employees approached, some to apologize, others just to welcome her back. The atmosphere in the store shifted from tension to something lighter. A young man approached, extending his hand. "Welcome back, Manager Morrison." Angela shook his hand, smiling for the first time. "Thank you." Austin watched from a distance. He saw how Angela handled each person with grace and dignity. He saw how, slowly, the initial surprise was giving way to respect. She was going to be a great manager. He was sure of it. That afternoon at Westbrook Elementary, the recess bell rang. Chloe grabbed her lunchbox and ran out. She found Noah waiting for her by the door, as always, but there was something different about him. His eyes were shining in a special way. He was smiling from ear to ear. "Hi," she said, excited. "Hi, Chloe." Noah was practically bouncing with excitement. They walked together to their corner by the wall, their spot. But before they even sat down, Noah couldn't hold it in. "Chloe, you're not going to believe what happened." "What?" "Your dad helped my mom." Chloe blinked, confused. "How?" "Yesterday he came to our house again, and he told us something amazing." Noah sat down quickly and pulled Chloe to sit beside him. "Do you know how I told you my mum lost her job because they accused her of stealing?" "Yeah." "Well, she didn't steal anything. It was the manager who stole and blamed her, and your dad found out. He saw the security cameras and everything." Chloe's eyes widened. "Really? Really? And you know what else? Your dad offered my mum a new job. And not just any job, Chloe. She's going to be a manager." "A manager?" "Yes, my mum cried so much when he told her, but they were happy tears, you know." Noah held Chloe's hands, still in disbelief. "My mum started work this morning. She woke up early, put on a nice outfit, and she was so happy." "Chloe, I haven't seen my mum smile like that in a long time." Chloe felt her own eyes fill with tears. "Noah, that's so great." "It is, and she made me lunch today. Look." Noah picked up the lunchbox beside him. It was old and a bit dented, but it was there. He opened it carefully, showing the contents as if it were a treasure. A real ham and cheese sandwich. "And she packed an apple and cookies too." Chloe clapped her hands. "Your dad is the best in the world." "He is," Noah agreed, and then his expression grew more serious. "Chloe, it was all because of you. Because of me. If you hadn't shared your lunch with me that day, if you hadn't been my friend, your dad would have never met me. And he would have never found out about my mum." Noah looked at her with gratitude in his eyes. "You saved us." "I just wanted to be your friend," Chloe said, turning red. And because of that, everything changed. They were silent for a moment, the weight of those words hanging between them. Then Chloe opened her lunchbox. She had 2 sandwiches, as always. "Do I still want to share?" she asked. Noah looked at his own sandwich and then at Chloe. He smiled. "We have food at home now, but I like sitting with you." "I like sitting with you too." The 2 of them started eating, talking about everything that had happened. Noah recounted every detail of the previous night, how his mom had cried and laughed at the same time, how she had hugged him tightly and said everything was going to be okay. "You know what my mom said?" Noah said between bites. "What?" She said, "Noah, your little friend and her generosity changed our lives, and she's right." Chloe shook her head. "It was my dad who really helped. But it was you who made him meet us. It was you who saw that I was alone and decided to sit with me." Noah smiled. "You're the best friend anyone could have, Chloe." "You're the best friend too, Noah. Forever. Forever." They linked their pinkies and made the promise, laughing. Around them, the playground remained loud and chaotic. Boys ran, girls played, teachers supervised, but there, in their corner, there was peace and happiness. The friendship that had started with a shared sandwich continued, not because Noah needed it anymore, but because it was real, because they chose to be together. At that moment, a few miles away, Angela was in the manager's office at Red Market, organizing her new desk. She looked through the glass window and saw the employees working. Some watched her with curiosity, others with growing respect. She was back, not as a victim, but as a leader. She picked up her phone and sent a message to Noah. "First day is going well. I love you, my son." And elsewhere in the city, Austin Whitmore was in his office, signing off on changes to company policies, new rules for employee protection, new investigation procedures, new oversight systems, changes that should have been made a long time ago. He thought of Noah and Chloe, sharing lunches and friendship. He thought about how a 7-year-old had seen something that he, with all his experience and power, had failed to see. That everyone deserves kindness, that everyone deserves justice, and that sometimes the biggest changes start with the smallest gestures, a shared sandwich, an offered friendship, a small voice saying, "My mom never did it." Austin smiled. The world wasn't perfect. There was still much to fix, but today, at least, one injustice had been corrected. And tomorrow, he would continue working to correct others, because now he knew the truth. It wasn't enough to build empires. You had to take care of the people inside them. And it all started with his daughter, a 7-year-old girl with blonde hair and clear eyes who saw someone alone and decided to make a difference. Sometimes, Austin thought, children understand the world better than adults. And he was grateful to have learned that lesson. Austin waited at the school gate, watching the children come out. He had done this a few times in the past weeks, and each time he felt less strange, less out of place. He was beginning to understand why this moment was important. Chloe appeared, running, her backpack bouncing on her back. When she saw her father, her face lit up. "Dad, you came again." "I did, Princess." Austin opened his arms, and she threw herself into them. "Where's Noah?" "He went with his mum today. She managed to leave work early." "Oh, that's great." Austin took her backpack, and they walked to the car. "How was school?" "It was fun. We learned about countries in geography class, and at recess, Noah taught me a new game his mom taught him." Austin opened the car door, and Chloe got in. He put the backpack in the back seat and sat in the driver's seat, but he didn't start the engine right away. He sat there for a moment, looking at his daughter in the rear-view mirror. She was organizing something in her backpack, distracted, humming softly. "Chloe." "Can I tell you something?" She looked up, noticing his serious tone. "Of course, Dad." Austin turned to look directly at her. "You know what happened with Noah's mom, right? How I was able to help her." "I know. Noah told me everything. He was so happy, Dad. I've never seen him smile like that." "Right. And I wanted you to know something important." Austin took a deep breath. "None of this would have happened if it weren't for you." Chloe blinked, confused. "For me? Yes. You saw Noah alone that day. You saw that he was hungry, that no one talked to him, and you decided to do something. You went over, sat next to him, and shared your lunch. But I just wanted to help. I know. And that's exactly what made all the difference. Austin felt his voice get a little hoarse. You didn't know who his mother was. You didn't know she had been wronged. You didn't know I could do something. You just saw a child who needed a friend and decided to be that friend. Chloe looked down at her hands. Everyone deserves to have friends. Yes. Everyone does. Austin opened the door and moved to the back seat, sitting next to his daughter. Chloe, you helped Noah, but you also helped me do the right thing. How? I was so busy with the company, with meetings, with numbers and papers, that I had forgotten to look at the people. The real people who work for me, who depend on me. He took her small hand. But you reminded me. You showed me that seeing people, really seeing them, is what matters. I was just being his friend, Dad. And that changed everything. It changed Noah's life. It changed Angela's life. And it changed my life too. Austin held her face in his hands. You are a very generous daughter, Chloe. I am so proud of you. Chloe's eyes shone. Really? So proud. You're 7 years old and you already understand things that many adults don't. You're special. Chloe threw herself into his arms, hugging him tightly. Austin held her, his heart full. Dad? Her voice came out muffled against his chest. Yes. It feels good to help people, doesn't it? Austin smiled, feeling his eyes burn a little. Yes, Princess. It feels very good. Then I'm going to keep helping whenever I can. I know you will, and I'm going to try to do the same. They stayed like that for another moment, just father and daughter, hugging in the back seat of the car. Then Chloe pulled away and looked at him. Dad? Yes? Do you think we could invite Noah and Angela over for lunch one day? Austin smiled. Funny you should say that. I was thinking the exact same thing. The following Saturday, Angela and Noah arrived at the Whitmore house at noon. Angela had hesitated when Austin invited them. Are you sure? We don't want to be a bother. It's no bother, Austin had insisted. It would be an honor to have you. Now, standing in front of the gate of the large house, Angela took a deep breath. Noah held her hand, his eyes wide. Mom, the house is huge. I know, sweetie, but remember what we talked about. We act normal, be polite. I know. The door opened before they could ring the bell. Chloe came running out. Noah, you came. Hi, Chloe. The two children hugged as if they hadn't seen each other in months, when in reality they had played together at school the day before. Austin appeared behind Chloe. Angela, Noah, welcome. Thank you for inviting us, Angela said, still a little shy. The pleasure is ours. Please, come in. The house was large, but Austin had made sure lunch would be outside in the garden. He wanted something more informal, more welcoming. Mom, can I show Noah my room? Chloe asked, already pulling her friend by the hand. Angela looked at Austin's, who nodded yes. You can go, but don't take too long. Lunch will be ready soon. The children disappeared up the stairs, already chatting excitedly. Austin led Angela to the garden. A table was set under a large tree, with a simple tablecloth and nice but not over-the-top dishes. Martha had prepared a homemade lunch, nothing too fancy, just good food. What a beautiful garden, Angela commented, looking around. Thank you. I don't get much time to enjoy it, but Chloe loves playing here. They sat in garden chairs, a comfortable silence between them. How are the first few weeks as manager? Austin asked. Angela smiled. Challenging, but good. The team is getting used to me. Some still look at me with curiosity, but most already treat me with respect. You're doing a great job. The reports I've been receiving are excellent. Thank you. I'm trying to do things differently than the previous one. I know you are, and it's working. Laughter came from inside the house. Austin and Angela looked up and saw the two children running into the garden. Mom, Dad, come see, Chloe shouted. But before the adults could get up, Noah and Chloe had already started a game. They ran around the garden, laughing, making up rules as they went. Noah pretended to be a dragon, roaring and chasing Chloe, who pretended to be a brave knight. You're not going to catch me, Chloe yelled, running in circles around the tree. Yes, I am. I'm the fastest dragon in the world. They jumped, twirled, and hid behind bushes. Noah's laughter was loud and genuine, with no trace of the sadness he used to carry. Chloe's was contagious, full of pure joy. Austin watched it all, a smile on his face. Beside him, Angela also watched, her eyes shining. It's good to see them like this, Austin said quietly. It's beautiful, Angela nodded, without taking her eyes off her son. It's been so long since I've seen Noah like this, so light, so happy. Chloe, too, she's always been a cheerful child, but since she met Noah, she seems different, more aware of things. I don't know how to explain it, and more empathetic, Angela suggested. Yes, exactly. They were silent for a moment, just watching the children play. Then Angela turned to Austin. They just needed someone to see them. What do you mean? Noah was invisible at school. No one saw him. No one cared. He was there, but it was like he didn't exist. Angela paused, her voice growing softer. But Chloe saw him. She saw my son when no one else did. Austin felt something tighten in his chest. And you, he said, you were being crushed by a system that didn't see people. It only saw numbers, processes, efficiency. Until I stopped and really looked. Seeing people should be the default, right? Angela gave a sad smile. But it's not. We live in a world where it's easier to ignore. Yes, but it doesn't have to be that way. No, it doesn't. Martha appeared at the door, waving. Mr. Whitmore, lunch is ready. Thank you, Martha. Austin stood up and called the children. Chloe, Noah, time to eat. The two children came running, sweaty and smiling. Already, Noah complained. We were in the middle of the game. You can continue later, Angela said, ruffling his hair. Everyone sat at the table. Martha had prepared lasagna, salad, and garlic bread. Nothing fancy, just comforting homemade food. This is delicious, Angela said after the first bite. Martha is a great cook, Austin agreed. The children ate excitedly, talking about the game they had invented and what they would do after lunch. Can I show Chloe my drawings, Mom? Noah asked. You can, but only if she wants to see them. I do, Chloe said immediately. Noah draws so well, Dad. You should see. Maybe you can show me too after lunch, Austin suggested. Noah blushed with pride. Really? Really? The conversation flowed naturally, sometimes about serious things, like Angela's work and the changes at Red Market. Other times about silly things, like the movie Chloe wanted to watch or the book Noah was reading at school. It was simple. It was light. It was normal. And somehow that normality was precious. After everything that had happened, after all the pain and injustice, being there, at that table, sharing a simple meal, felt almost like a miracle. Austin looked around the table. Chloe was telling a story excitedly, gesturing with her hands. Noah was laughing, hanging on her every word. Angela was smiling, relaxed in a way she probably hadn't been in months. This was what mattered. Not the success of the company, not the numbers in the bank, not the prestige or the power. This, people sitting together, laughing, talking, living. Dad, Chloe nudged him. Are you okay? Austin blinked, coming out of his thoughts. I'm fine, Princess. Just thinking. About what? About how lucky I am. Lucky why? For having you as a daughter, for being here, in this moment, with you all. Chloe smiled and went back to eating. To her, that answer made perfect sense. After lunch, the children went back to playing in the garden while Austin and Angela had coffee on the porch. Thank you for today, Angela said. It was special. For me, too. It's nice to have the house full of laughter. Do you and Chloe live alone? Yes, Chloe's mother left us when she was a baby. Since then, it's just been the two of us. And Martha, of course. It must be hard, raising a child alone. It is, but Chloe makes things easier. She's an amazing girl. Austin paused. Just like Noah. Thank you, he's my whole world. They were silent, watching the children. Noah had found a ball, and the two were trying to play soccer, although neither of them really knew the rules. "You know," Austin said after a while, "all of this has made me think a lot about priorities, about what really matters. And what did you discover? That I had put the company above everything else, above Chloe, above the people who work for me, above my own humanity." He looked at Angela. "But now I understand. Success means nothing if you don't take care of the people around you. That's an important lesson, and it was you and Noah who taught it to me. Or rather, it was Chloe who showed you to me, made me see." Angela smiled. "Children are wise in a way we forget when we grow up. They really are." The sun was beginning to set on the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The children were still playing, tireless, enjoying every second. Austin looked at the scene and knew he would never forget it. That day, that moment, that feeling of peace. Justice had been served. Angela had her job back, in an even better position. Noah had food on the table and his mother happy again. Chloe had a true friend, and Austin had learned a lesson no business course could ever teach. It was a new beginning for everyone, a new chapter. And this time, Austin was determined not to lose sight of what really mattered. "Thank you," he said suddenly. Angela looked at him, surprised. "For what?" "For giving me a second chance, for accepting to come back, for being here today. You gave us a second chance too. You could have ignored everything, but you didn't." "I couldn't, not after meeting Noah. Not after seeing what had happened." "Then I guess we're even," Austin smiled. "I guess so." The children ran up to them, breathless and happy. "Mom, can we come back another day?" Noah asked. Angela looked at Austin, who nodded immediately. "Of course you can. Whenever you want." And so, as the sun set and laughter filled the garden, 4 people discovered that sometimes, from the worst situations, the best things can be born. Friendship, justice, a new beginning, and the certainty that when you truly see people, everything can change. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next ones. Leave a like because it helps this story get recommended to more people. See you in the next story.